We thought we could refer this book, The Social Leap. This was an interesting book, very similar to other books about a similar topic, about how we became more social. Very similar, I would say. He even referenced other books in his book. One of the reasons why this book is almost a four, I feel like it's a four, but in some parts it felt like it's more of a self help than a non-fiction. So we kind of like went in between, we were back and forth from a self help to a non-fiction. For example, there is a part of happiness, a big portion of the book, also about how to learn from it. For example, his title is The New Evolutionary Science of Who We Are, Where We Come From, and What Makes Us Happy. He talks about that, but he also talks about, yeah, he has his own thoughts and his own, I feel like he has an agenda underneath. That's why it's almost a four. It's not a four. It's a high three, I would give it, but overall, if you have to choose from 1 to 5, it would be a three. Let's see the notes. Leaving the group or family decreases the probability of bad genes propagating. That's why many people, not many, but people tend to leave, and animals tend to leave their community in order to, not in order, they don't know to do it, but it's beneficial for the gene. Genes are nudging us to a certain direction, which then can be reinforced by the environment. So genes are there as a blueprint, I think. So it doesn't say that, but as other authors said, it's a blueprint. It could be nudging us in one direction or another, but ultimately the environment reinforces us to go, or that tendency. According to one theory, as plate tectonics shifted, ancestors found themselves lacking trees, which enforced them to develop hunting skills. That's how we became more of hunters than eating leaves or whatever, insects, whatever other non-hunters do, or whatever is being left. We became hunters as, and our ancestors found themselves with no trees in the savannah. Collective stone throwing was a key for defending ourselves in the past. That's how we used to defend ourselves if in a time of when a threat posed itself. Collective stone throwing. That was the key for defending ourselves. Unlike chimpanzees, our gaze is visible to others, which shows that cooperation, I think it's cooperation, but cooperation matters more than personal success. So our gaze, we can see where we're looking at. Chimpanzees, you cannot. What he draws from it, or other researchers, whoever they draw out of it, is that for humans, cooperation matters more than personal success, because if not, whatever we would look at it would be hidden, so other people would not find it. For example, it's food. But cooperation matters more for humans. Cooking allowed us to extract more nutrients and digest the food faster. So that cooking has helped us a lot in our development. If not for cooking, we may not develop language, as we would require more chewing, similar to chimpanzees. There is a mistake there. But if we wouldn't invent cooking, we would have to chew a lot. That's what chimpanzees do, and we probably not would be able to develop language, as it requires a lot of chewing, and you cannot speak and talk at the same time, or it's not very coherent, at least. Dogs do not have theory of mind, and therefore do not distinguish between accidental action to intentional ones. They don't have theory of mind. They can't think of what other people think. Therefore, if you kick them, they don't know if it was accidental or purpose. Good to know. Human infants suffer from over-imitation, where they imitate even unnecessary parts of the task. So there is imitation is a great tool of learning. However, human infants over-imitate things, and they would imitate things that don't make sense or they're not needed to proceed the task or to complete the task. Sharing diminished as slackers became harder to identify with larger community. That's why there's less sharing as it used to be in the past, because the whole idea of sharing is based on the idea that you can find those who do not share or those who con the system. However, with larger communities, it's harder to keep track. Property rules promote people to develop and care for their property, but also create inequality. So there is a reason, or there is a good thing about having property for property rules. That's how people care more about their surroundings. They invest more time into it and more money into it. However, it also creates inequality by people having more, and whoever was there first has more, and they can sell it, and such and such. Shift cities made people more polite to avoid confrontations. You have to be more polite because you don't know who you're dealing with, and you don't want to get into an altercation. So people are at least at first more polite. The shift to cities, also made it easier to con people. Many services are a consequence of it. It's much easier to con people because you don't know who to trust or not. There's a large pool of people. So this shift also helped con artists to prosper. Many of the services we have these days is to counteract those con artists. Due to the costs of for women to have a baby, they are more picky. Men in their turn show that they can take care of both. So it's very costly for a woman to have a baby, therefore they're more picky than men. Men in their turn, what they show they can take care of both the baby and the mom. Honest signals are those that show fitness more clearly. So things like a big tail, or the things that show it in a very blunt way, very conspicuous way. Those are honest signals. Social comparisons plays a big role as we care more about our place compared to those around us. So we use social comparison. We don't care that a distant person, people we don't know, are more successful than we are. We care, but not as much. We care much more about the person who is close to us that is more successful than we are. As humans, we desire to share what's on our mind. We have that. We want to share what's on our mind. And it's not, he says, like, he brings the idea that if you saw a meteor, he saw a meteor, and you immediately want to share it with other people. You look around, other people seen it. We want to share ideas. Sharing thoughts and emotions serves as a consensus where everyone are on the same page. So that's one reason why we share things, is because that's how we are on the same page. We'll know what we're talking about. It's easier to cooperate that way. Humans mostly share emotions and little information when they tell stories. It's mostly emotions. There's not that much information when we tell stories. Self-control is easier when turned into abstractions. For example, number of marshmallows instead of the marshmallow itself. That's why it's much easier to have self-control when we use abstractions. If we think on the number, we're getting 1 or 2 marshmallows, it's easier than looking at the marshmallow. People wait longer than needed to toss the test away when being told the color is changing or not. Very interesting experiment there. They told people that the color of the test would change, and to other people to say it would not change. The time people waited was much longer when they said the color would change, and it didn't change. Very interesting. It's optimistic in a kind of way, which is like, let's see. And also in the same test, people were tossing it sooner when they said that the test, when it's not going to change. Depends on the previous or initial objective. In the past, when a member of the group did something wrong, it started with mocking, to ignoring, to abandoning, to taking out the member. That's how they used to advance when something didn't go as planned. Mocking, ignoring, abandoning, and taking out, which means killing. Even among monkeys, males prefer objects while females prefer socializing. They prefer people. So it's also common among monkeys. In third world countries, there are more women represented in STEM, since in the first world countries, they have the option to go somewhere better and more interesting. So you would think it goes the other way because there is no woman empowerment in third world countries. However, the opposite applies. There is more women in STEM. His theory is that here there is empowerment. Therefore they have more opportunity to go somewhere where they're more interested in. There they don't. There's two types of leaders. One lead by force while the other by example. So two types of leaders, even among animals. Makes sense that in most cases, the one that leads by example is more successful. However, sometimes you have to lead by force. When there is a group competition, in-group cohesiveness goes up. When there's other group, in-group cohesiveness goes up. It's a known thing, but still good to note. Both sides are interested to avoid fighting, as even the winner get hurt. When there is a disagreement who's winning, a confrontation often ensues. So both sides don't want to get into an altercation. When it's clear who's going to lose, that's where most fights do not start. However, when there is a disagreement who's going to win, that's when a confrontation actually starts. Being happy all the time discourages developing and advancing. High achievers are often not happy people. So being happy all the time, it's not a good thing, even though we would think it is, because that's how we would not go forward. And you can see that that's his backup, or that's his evidence that high achievers are often not very happy. They always have something lurking in the background. You're not good. Let's keep on going. This is not good. Let's continue. Next one. According to the one theory, the body produces more immune cells when we are happy, since when we are sad, it usually saves energy for what's to come. So when we're sad, that's when the body does not produce immune cells because it saves the energy. For example, maybe you have to run from a lion. That's when in evolutionary perspective. But when you're happy, the body has more time, has more energy, it saves it and produces more immune cells. Very interesting. Last one, evolution is amoral, not immoral, which is not moral. Amoral does not care about morality. It doesn't have morality. For example, he brings the example of hyenas eating an animal alive. They don't have morality. We invented morality. They don't have morality. That's it for the notes. Again, there is some interesting parts of the book, especially if you're interested in those. I like all the social evolution, all those. Not much new information. It's very well written, I would say. As I said, it's almost a 4. If I wasn't reading other books related to the subject, I for sure would give it a 4. However, I did already know some parts, and the fact that he brought in the self-help situation, all those parts, was a reason for deducting a little bit. Again, it's a high 3, but 3 nonetheless. Thank you.